Saudi Arabia, Pakistan and Turkey have signed the Mecca Joint Defence Pact, declaring that an attack on one would be considered an attack on all three of them. Three Sunni majority powers, three very different military strengths. Pakistan brings a large battle-hardened military and a nuclear deterrent. Turkey brings a NATO experience, a powerful defence industry and also some pretty advanced drone capabilities. While Saudi Arabia brings the financial muscle. Together, they could create a new layer of regional deterrence at a time when trust in the traditional US security umbrella is being questioned. But there is one bigger and overarching question. How far can this pact actually go, and what purpose does this pact even serve? Now, the agreement says that an attack on one will be treated as an attack on all, but it does not yet make a clear how or when the three countries will actually come to each other's defense. For example, if the Houthi forces attack Saudi Arabia, which has been happening, the question is, will Pakistan and Turkey have any incentive in getting involved in that conflict? That remains untested. And that is why maybe a full-fledged military alliance and more a message of deterrence for now. The bigger story is who is not a part of this group. The United Arab Emirates, Qatar and Egypt are amongst the nations that could potentially also join, but there are major differences in their regional priorities. Now, the United Arab Emirates in particular has moved along a different track. Abu Dhabi has normalized relations with Israel under the Abraham Accords, while its position has diverged from Riyadh and Ankara on issues including Yemen, and that makes the United Arab Emirates' position particularly important as this new security equation takes shape. And then there is, of course, India. New Delhi now has to watch a region where its closest partners are not necessarily perhaps on the same side of the emerging security equation. Now remember, India has deep strategic ties with Israel, but it also has a rapidly growing partnership with the United Arab Emirates and the important relations with Saudi Arabia. The Ministry of External Affairs has said that it is monitoring the developments very closely. So the question for India is not whether to choose one side. It is how to maintain all these strategic partnerships as West Asia's security architecture begins to shift. And for now, New Delhi is keeping its response cautious, closely monitoring the developments and also assessing what this new pact could mean for regional stability and also India's own security interests. These are some pretty interesting aspects in terms of how things could actually play out as a part of this security alliance. How far will this security alliance even go are some of the big questions. All right, now to put all of this in perspective, we're joined on this broadcast by Dr. Tara Kartha, the former Director of National Security Council Secretariat and also a former Senior Fellow at the U.S. Institute of Peace from New Delhi. Dr. Kartha, thank you very much indeed for joining us here on WION. And let me in fact start off by asking you this. The fact that this tripartite alliance has effectively been brought into existence, in your assessment, what is the significance of this? Because the NATO military alliance, when it was formed, had a clear adversary in the form of the Soviet Union. Who is the adversary against which these three nations are now coming together as part of this Mecca Joint Defence Pact?
First, I just wanted to stress one thing. This is nowhere at all near a NATO alliance. Nowhere. Yep. Because it doesn't have the structures, it doesn't have the ethos, it doesn't have the the traditional alliance system. But however, this is definitely a very intriguing, it's an extremely intriguing alliance as to why they would come together at all. Right now, I would say Saudis are in a very bad position. They have got enemies all around. I mean, Iran, strictly speaking, that the Saudis have better relations with Israel than with Iran. Right? And Iran has been extremely clever in not sort of saying Saudi Arabia attacks will be only on US bases. That is what they've done. But there are other side issues involved. So that is the problem. The Houthis, as you said, they've taken off since mid-July this year. The attacks have they've quadrupled. I think yesterday there was an attack where I think about 11 people died, including 2 Saudi citizens. So that is another problem. And then there are some reports which have not been entirely confirmed of Iran-backed militias in Iraq. So it seems as if, and on top of all this, as you just mentioned, is the fact that you can't really, apparently, you can't really rely on the US anymore. So to get it, I mean, Saudi Arabia is used to being the pivot of West Asia, which is probably not the case anymore.
Right.
So this, I think, is an attempt to get it back into into a full position where it says, okay, I've got the clout now, I've got Turkey, I've got thing, and other people may enter. Bahrain, will virtually be part of it because the Bahrain-Saudi relationship is very cold. I mean, very, very good. Pakistan has reached out to various countries separately. I mean, people have reached out, Jordan, etc. So eventually this might be expand, though at the moment I would say there's no great motivation for anyone to join this.
Right. Now, you touched upon several important aspects, and you touched at the nub of this issue. That is Saudi Arabia's changing position in terms of its security in the context of the Iran war. Now, in your assessment, do you think, because if the Saudis were to come under attack by the Houthis, the conflict has already started to heat up, do you think Pakistan and Turkey will have enough of an incentive to join the Saudis to fight against a power like the Houthis?
I mean, the US is right there. There's a US base in Yambu, right next to where the Yemenis are, the Houthis are, sorry. They are not doing anything. They're sitting very quiet. So, I mean, imagine a Pakistani ship sailing into the Red Sea and sort of breaking this blockade which the Houthis have put there. I don't know, because even when the Pakistani troops went in, earlier, after that pact was signed earlier in August, wasn't it August 2025? The Pakistani, as you know, they were long historical presence of being in Saudi Arabia, assisting in training, assisting in multiple things in Saudi Arabia. Former Pakistani chiefs have been there. But they have been very careful to keep this as a defensive procedure. I mean, right. Pakistani troops deployed on the Yemen border are in defensive mode. They are not there to do any kind of, they have not so far done any attack which is across the border. So in that situation, if after this pact is signed and there's a major attack, I mean, they look pretty silly unless they do something, isn't it?
I think that will be the test of what this alliance actually will mean. But also, Dr. Kant, I want you to weigh in on how India would be looking at an alliance such as this. It is a joint defense military pact. The fact that India has good relations with Saudi Arabia, Pakistan not so much, Turkey is another issue that India would want to deal with. How do you think India looks at this joint defensive pact?
I would caution against talking too much about it, to be honest, because it's not something we need to be insecure on at all. This is a business within West Asia. It has nothing much directly to do with us.
Right.
If Pakistan wants to take on additional responsibilities, so be it. Turkey, believe me, is a major defense producer. It is not really actively your enemy or anything like that. It is not. But your problem is going to be that the UAE is out of all this. Right? And they will not join. They will not join this pact. Israel has just supplied UAE with the Iron Dome.
Right.
You think might be called upon to give it some kind of assistance. I mean, that's really looking into the future, provided Iran continues to do this. So our interest is to end the Iran war. And so is Pakistan's interest. I mean, Pakistan has to now end this war, or like you said so rightly, its bluff is going to be, it's not bluff, sorry, I shouldn't say that. Its word is going to be called.
Absolutely. It is trying to play the role of a mediator. We have to see as to how far Pakistan can succeed in that. And I think you put it really well in perspective in terms of how India should, of course, approach this alliance. Thank you very much indeed, Dr. Karta, for joining us with that perspective there.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on your show.